Captain Daniel Hayes stood in the command center of Earth's orbital station, looking at the message on the screen. The words were clear and simple, but their meaning was hard to believe. The Galactic Council wanted to meet with humanity. They wanted it now. Hayes was a man of 45 years with at the edges of his dark hair. He had spent his whole life preparing for this moment without knowing it. He was a military officer, a diplomat, and someone who understood how to stay calm when everything around him was breaking apart. Earth had only made contact with alien life 3 years ago. Now, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were calling them to meet. The message came through the translator, a device that humans had received from the first alien species they met. There were energy beings, ancient and strange, but they had been kind enough to share their technology. The message said that the Galactic Council, made up of species that ruled vast portions of the universe, wanted to discuss humanity's place in the galactic order. It was not a request. It was a command hidden in polite language. Hayes called his team into the room. Dr. Lisa Park arrived first. She was a scientist, brilliant with numbers and systems. Her parents had come from Korea, and she had their sharp mind and sharp eyes. She looked at the message and raised one eyebrow. "They want us at the council station in 6 days," she said. "That gives us very little time." Commander Grant came next. He was younger than Hayes, maybe 32, with the look of someone who had spent his life training for combat. He had served in Earth's military and was now the head of humanity's small tactical force. He read the message and smiled in a way that made Hayes know he was already thinking 3 steps ahead. Last came Ambassador Sophia. She was the diplomat, the one who understood how to speak to different people and make them understand each other. She was in her 50s, with a warm face that could become serious in a moment. She had worked with governments and international organizations her whole life. She read the message and closed her eyes for a moment. "We need to prepare," she said. "We need formal uniforms, gifts, proper diplomatic protocol. We need to show them we are a serious species." Hayes nodded. That was what most people would think. That was what the United Nations back on Earth had already told him in their own message. Dress well, show respect, follow the rules, prove that humanity deserved a place at the table of the powerful. But Hayes had spent his life learning that sometimes the move was the one nobody expected. "I want to do something different," he said to his team. They all looked at him. Lisa Park leaned forward. "What do you mean?" she asked. "The Galactic Council exists because of power and rules," Hayes said. "Every species that sits at that table got there by following traditions or by being strong enough to break traditions. But they all play the same game. They all dress in ways that show their status. They all speak with careful words. They all act like they are something other than what they are." Grant began to smile. He was starting to understand. "We are from a," Hayes continued. "Earth is hard. The weather is extreme. The animals are deadly. The land itself wants to kill you sometimes. We survived by being different. We survived by not playing the same game as everyone else. We survived by being creative, by being tough, by refusing to accept that something was impossible just because it seemed impossible." Sophia was shaking her head slowly. "Daniel, they expect formal dress. They expect protocol." "Exactly," Hayes said. "They expect us to be afraid. They expect us to bow and ask for permission. They expect us to act like we need their approval." He stood up and looked at each of them. "What if we walked in there wearing t-shirts and jeans? What if we acted like we belonged there already? What if we showed them that we were not afraid of their traditions because we had survived something they could never understand?" Lisa Park started to laugh. "It is crazy," she said. "It might work." "It will work," said. "It will confuse them. Confusion is an advantage." Sophia was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. "It is honest at least," she said. "On Earth, we dress to show how we feel. We dress to show confidence or respect or closeness. A t-shirt is honest. It says we are comfortable, we are not hiding, we are real." Hayes felt the weight of the decision settle on him. This was not just about clothes. This was about how humanity would introduce itself to the galaxy. This was about claiming a place among the stars with confidence instead of fear. "We leave in 2 days," he said. "We will take the science ship. We will carry no weapons. We will show them that we come to talk, not to fight. And we will wear clothes that show we are not trying to be something we are not. We are humans. We are from Earth. We survived the hardest planet in the galaxy. They need to understand that from the moment they see us." The team spent the next 2 days preparing in a different way than anyone had planned. They did not practice speeches about respect and tradition. Instead, They studied the council members. Lisa Park learned everything about biology and the energy patterns. Grant studied the military history of the major species and how they fought. Sophia read about diplomatic failures and successes throughout galactic history. And they all prepared simple t-shirts with a single image on them. A picture of Earth, the blue oceans and the green continents, the clouds swirling in the atmosphere. It was not a threat. It was not a challenge. It was simply the truth. This was where they came from. This was what made T. The Council Station was enormous. It hung in space like a crystalline monument to power and age. The structure was not made of simple metal. It was made of materials that humans did not have names for, substances that reflected light in ways that seemed impossible. The station had been built over thousands of years by species that had watched civilizations rise and fall like seasons changing. Captain Hayes and his team moved through the corridors of the station with eyes wide. The air smelled different. The gravity was different. Everything was different. But Hayes kept his face calm. He had learned long ago that showing fear in a new situation was the fastest way to lose respect. Sophia walked beside him. She was looking at everything with a diplomat's eye, trying to read what every piece of architecture meant about the species that created it. Grant was behind them, watching the other beings who moved through the corridors. There were creatures made of light. There were beings with too many limbs. There were forms that did not seem to have a clear shape at all. Each one moved with confidence through these halls. Each one belonged here in a way that humans did not. Not yet, Hayes thought, but we will. The Grand Council chamber was more impressive than any human space Hayes had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up so far that it seemed to touch the sky itself. The walls were made of the same crystalline material as the station, but here it was carved with patterns that seemed to tell stories in languages Hayes did not understand. The chamber was circular, and at the center was a table where the council members sat. There were 12 of them. They took up the most space. They were with hard outer shells that looked like armor. They had multiple limbs and eyes that reflected light like polished metal. The leader was named, and he was larger than the others, his shell darker and from what must have been countless battles. He looked at Hayes and his team the way a human might look at an interesting insect. Next to were they appeared as swirling patterns of blue and white energy, held in some kind of container that allowed them to exist in physical space. They did not make sounds. Instead, they communicated through patterns of light that changed and shifted inside their forms. A translator device on the wall converted their light patterns into human words. The aura were there as well. They were silicon-based creatures, their bodies made of crystal and stone. They moved slowly but with absolute purpose. They had existed for longer than recorded galactic history. They spoke in deep tones that seemed to come from the Earth itself. There were other species as well, though with their feathered forms, though with their massive bulk and placid faces. The OK with their strange configuration of appendages and sensory organs. Each one of them had claimed their place in the galaxy through strength, intelligence, or time. Each one had earned their seat at this table. Hayes walked forward with Sophia on his right and slightly behind. He was wearing a simple blue t-shirt with the image of Earth on the front. His jeans were basic and worn. He wore no jewelry, no medals, no symbols of rank except the patches on his shirt that showed he was human military. Sophia was dressed in similar simple clothes, a t-shirt and black pants. Lisa Park was not present in the chamber. She was in the observation room, ready to record everything that happened. The council had allowed this without much objection. Multiple eyes turned toward Hayes. Then something that might have been laughter came from the leader. The sound was not pleasant. It was the sound of something amused by something foolish. "These are the humans," said. His translator worked through sound vibrations that the humans could hear. "We have been told much about this species yet they come before us like children arriving at a great university wearing their sleeping clothes." The council chamber filled with sounds that Hayes realized were the various ways the different species made noise when they were pleased. They were laughing at humanity. Hayes did not move. He did not look away. He simply stood and waited. "We summoned you here," continued, "to discuss your place in the galactic order. Your species has only recently developed space travel. You have no military presence worth mentioning. You have no advanced technology beyond what we have shared with you. Yet you have made demands to join the council structure." "We did not make demands," Sophia said. Her voice was calm and clear. "We came because we were invited." "You came," said, "to be assigned a place. Your world is harsh. Your species is primitive. We are considering whether it would be better to place your people under the protection of the Council as a colonial species or to keep you quarantined on your world until you develop proper civilization. Hayes felt something cold move through his chest. This was what it meant to be a young species in a galaxy dominated by the old and the powerful. They were not being invited to join. They were being assigned a status like an animal being placed in a zoo. "We will not accept either option," Hayes said. The council chamber became silent, not the silence of contemplation, the silence of shock. "You will not accept," repeated slowly. "You are in no position to refuse anything. You are nothing. Your species is an accident of evolution on a harsh planet. Your achievement in reaching space is remarkable only because we expected you to fail. You cannot refuse us." Hayes stepped forward. His team tensed. The warriors who stood at the edges of the chamber moved slightly closer, but Hayes kept walking until he was only a few steps away from the council table. "I will explain why we can refuse," Hayes said. His voice was not loud, but everyone in the chamber heard it clearly. "We come from a planet where the weather will kill you if you are not careful, where the animals hunt you, where the land itself tries to destroy you. We come from a world where we could not rely on any government to save us. We could not rely on tradition to protect us. We could not rely on any of the rules that work on easy worlds." He paused, the council waited. "We survived by learning to break the rules when the rules did not work. We survived by being creative when tradition failed us. We survived by refusing to accept that something was impossible just because every expert said it was. We survived by protecting our children and our people no matter the cost. We survived by being dangerous when danger came to us. And we survived by refusing to bow to anything but our own conscience." Leaned forward, "You make threats to the Galactic Council." "No," Hayes said. "I am telling you the truth. You came to us in peace and we came to you in peace. We came wearing our truth instead of hiding it behind armor and protocol. My people are dangerous not because we have weapons or power. We are dangerous because we understand how to survive when every choice leads to death. Every human has lived with that knowledge their whole lives. That is not a weakness. That is why you should fear us." The council chamber was absolutely silent now. "We do not want war," Hayes continued. "But we will not be assigned a place like a colonial species. We will not be put under protection like children. We want to sit at the table as equals. We want to trade with your people and build relationships based on respect. We want to show the galaxy what humans can do when we are allowed to do it." Sophia added, "Or you can reject us. You can tell us to return to Earth, but know this. In 100 years or 1,000 years, humans will return. We will be stronger. We will be harder. And we will remember how the Galactic Council treated us when we came to them without fear and with truth." First trial was combat. This was where the Council expected humanity to fail most completely. They were going to pit Grant against a simulation of an aura warrior in a sealed arena. The ancient silicon-based species had been creating warriors for longer than human civilization had existed. Their soldiers were known throughout the galaxy as nearly unbeatable. Grant stood in the arena wearing simple combat clothes. He had no special armor. He had no advanced weapons. He was given a standard energy blade that the Council used for testing, something that could hurt an aura just enough to matter. The simulation appeared across from him. The aura warrior was enormous. It was made of crystalline structure that was harder than anything humans could create. It had limbs that could strike with terrible force. Its body could repair itself if damage was not severe enough to be critical. It was designed to fight in ways that had worked for thousands of years. And Grant did not try to fight it the way it expected. From the first moment the simulation attacked did not meet force with force. Instead, he moved. He studied the patterns of the creature's strikes. He watched how it moved. He began to predict where it would attack before it attacked. The aura was strong, but it was also old. It used the same fighting patterns that had worked for. It did not know how to fight something that refused to fight back the same way. Moved like water around the hard crystal form of the warrior. He struck at joints and weak points. He used the simulation's own momentum against it. He tricked it into attacking in ways that left it unbalanced. The crowd in the observation room watched in surprise as a human, smaller and weaker than the ancient creature, began to control the fight. When the simulation made a critical error, was ready. He struck at the exact moment the creature was unbalanced. The energy blade connected with a section of the aura's structure that was essential for movement. The simulation stopped. It could not repair the damage quickly enough. Had won. The council was silent. They had not expected this. They had expected the simulation to crush the human in moments. Instead, the human had used intelligence, prediction, and flexibility to win. Nodded slowly. "Interesting," he said. "The human uses strategy rather than strength. This is unexpected." The second trial was different. It was intellectual. Dr. Lisa Park was brought to a chamber where she was presented with a problem. The council had created a mathematical model of stellar decay based on the energy output of a specific type of star. They had detailed information about how the star would die when it would explode and how the explosion would affect 17 nearby systems. The problem was complex. It involved calculations that would take standard galactic computers several hours to complete. They asked Lisa Park to solve it in 1 hour. She looked at the problem and began to think. The council watched through observation windows, ready to see her fail. But Lisa did not approach the problem the way their computers did. She did not try to calculate every variable with perfect precision. Instead, she asked questions. "What do the people in these systems already know about the star's decay?" she asked the council representative. "They have observed the changes," came the reply, "but they do not understand the timeline." Lisa began to draw pictures. She sketched diagrams showing how the star was changing. She used observations and history to predict patterns. She combined intuition with mathematics. She made assumptions that a computer would never make because they were not perfectly logical. But the assumptions were based on how natural systems actually worked, not on abstract theory. In 45 minutes, she had solved the problem. "The star will reach critical failure in 7 years," she said. "The explosion will be sufficient to destroy 3 systems completely. 4 systems will be heavily damaged. The remaining systems will be far enough away to survive with evacuation protocols. But if evacuation begins now, all intelligent life in those systems can be saved." The council checked her work. Every calculation was correct. Every prediction was accurate. "How did you solve this so quickly?" this representative asked through the translator. "This requires processing power beyond what we expected any biological species could possess." "I did not solve it the way your computers do," Lisa said. "Your computers calculate every possibility. I used experience. I have studied how systems fail. I have observed how patterns repeat in nature. I knew what the answer was probably going to be before I did the math. Then I worked backward to prove it. Your method is more thorough. My method is faster. Sometimes speed is more important than absolute precision." The council was impressed. This was a different kind of intelligence than they had expected. It was practical. It was adapted to survival. The third trial was diplomatic. 3 species that had a territorial dispute were brought to a negotiation chamber with Sophia. These were not simulation. These were real species with real conflicts. The claimed rights to a mining colony. The believed the territory should remain neutral. The OK wanted access to the resources but recognized the concerns of the other 2. Sophia had to find a solution that would satisfy all 3. She did not begin by statting positions. She began by asking each species what they actually needed. What were the real needs beneath the territorial claims? The needed resources to feed their population. The needed protection of their cultural sites in the region. The OK needed trade access that would help their own economy. "None of these needs are in direct conflict," Sophia said. "You are fighting over territory when you could be working together on shared benefits." She proposed a structure that would have mining rights but would be required to use careful extraction methods that protected the cultural sites. That would oversee the protection of sacred areas and receive compensation for their guardianship. The OK would manage the trade network and receive a percentage of the resources extracted. "Everyone gains something," Sophia said. "No one loses, and all 3 species benefit from working together instead of against each other." The 3 species consulted with each other. Then they agreed. It was a solution that should have taken weeks of negotiation. Sophia had found it in an afternoon. When all 3 trials were complete, the council reconvened. Grant had shown that humans could think strategically and adapt their tactics to overcome apparent disadvantages. Lisa Park had shown that human intuition and observation could solve complex problems faster than traditional methods. Sophia had shown that humans could find common ground even between species that wanted to destroy each other. Stood up, all of his eyes were focused on Hayes, who had been watching from the observation area. "You have proven something," the leader said. "Your species does not think like other species. You approach problems differently. You take risks that more cautious beings would avoid. You see solutions that are not obvious to those of us bound by tradition and precedent. Council chamber was full again. This time, representatives from many more species had come to listen. Word had spread about the 3 trials. Word had spread about how humans had performed in ways that seemed impossible. Now, everyone wanted to see what the humans would say. Captain Hayes stood in the center of the chamber. He was still wearing his t-shirt and jeans. Sophia and Grant stood with him. Lisa Park was in the observation room, ready to provide data if it was needed. But this moment belonged to Hayes. "I want to explain something to this council," Hayes began. "You see us as young and primitive. You think that being from it is a mark of shame. You believe that we should be grateful for protection and guidance. You are wrong about all of these things." His eyes fixed on him. Other council members shifted uncomfortably. It was not common for anyone to tell the Galactic Council that they were wrong. "It is not a weakness," Hayes said. "It is the strongest thing that any species can experience. Let me explain what my world is like." He began to describe Earth. He talked about hurricanes that could level buildings. He talked about earthquakes that could shake the land for minutes at a time. He talked about tsunamis and tornadoes and lightning strikes that killed without warning. He talked about wild animals that would hunt humans if given the chance. He talked about heat and cold and drought and flooding. "Every single day," Hayes said, "a human knows that the world is trying to kill them, not figuratively. Actually, the weather can kill, the animals can kill, hunger can kill, disease can kill, even the land itself can kill if you are not careful." He paused and looked at the council members. "We survived this not because we are stronger than any other species. We are not. We survived because we had to become something different. We became cooperative. We learned to work together because alone we were too weak to survive. A single human cannot hunt a large animal. A single human cannot build shelter that will protect them from extreme weather. But many humans working together can do anything." Lisa Park was watching from the observation room. She was transmitting data to Hayes through a small earpiece. Hayes referenced the numbers as he spoke. "On Earth, we have 97% of our biomass made of herbivores and plants. Only 3% is predators and humans. This is because predators were so fierce that they controlled all of us. We could not be the strongest species. We had to be the—" Grant listened to this and understood where Hayes was going. "We developed tools because we had to," Hayes continued. "We invented weapons because we had to. We created art and music and stories because we needed to understand each other and work together. Every part of human civilization comes from the need to survive on a world that wanted to kill us." Was listening carefully now. The other council members were as well. "But there is more," Hayes said. "A human grows up knowing that failure means death. We learn this before we even understand language. A human baby that does not get care will die. A human that does not eat will die. A human that becomes separated from their group will likely die. This truth is in our genetics. This truth shapes how we think." He stepped closer to the council table. "Every human knows what it is like to fail at something and have to try again. Every human knows what it is like to hurt and keep moving anyway. Every human knows what it is like to be afraid and do something anyway. This is not rare for us. This is normal. This is common. This is fundamental to who we are." Sophia was nodding. She had seen this in human history many times. Civilizations that had risen from difficult circumstances always seemed to have a different kind of strength. "You sent us trials to test us," Hayes said. "You thought we would fail because we were young, but young species from easy worlds might fail. Young species from have been tested every single day of their existence. Our children are tested. Our old people are tested. Our leaders are tested. Everyone succeeds or they do not, and both possibilities are real." Stood up, Hayes could not tell if the leader was angry or impressed. "You are saying that your weakness is your strength," said. "No," Hayes replied. "I am saying that what you see as weakness we know as truth. We come from the hardest place we know of. We survive there not by being soft or gentle. We survive by being honest. We face what kills us and we refuse to accept that it should kill us. We develop solutions that others would think are insane, and we do this every day of our lives." He gestured to Grant. "My commander solved a combat problem by refusing to fight the way he was supposed to fight. That is not something he learned. That is something his species knows in our bones. When the old way does not work, we find a new way." He gestured to Lisa Park in the observation area. My scientists solved a mathematical problem by using intuition and pattern recognition instead of pure calculation. That is not a flaw, that is a strength. That is what survival teaches you. Sometimes the perfect answer takes too long. You need the good answer now. And he gestured to Sophia. My diplomat found common ground between three species that thought they were enemies. Humans do this because we have had to do this. On Earth, we have different tribes, different nations, different religions, different ideas. We have spent our whole history learning how to work with people who are different from us, or we have spent our whole history dying in wars because we refused. Most of us chose to learn. Hayes stepped back and looked at all of the council members. You asked if humanity deserves a place at the table of the Galactic Council, he said. The answer is not that we are powerful enough or advanced enough. The answer is that we have something you need. We have people who know how to survive when survival seems impossible. We have people who think differently than you do because we had to think differently or die. He paused. The council chamber was completely silent. Every single human has lived with danger, Hayes said. We are young as a species, but we are not soft. We are not afraid of the difficult choices. We are not going to follow traditions that do not make sense. We are not going to bow to anyone except our own conscience and our own people. And we are going to grow. We are going to become stronger. We are going to become smarter. We are going to become something that this galaxy has never seen before. The observation deck of the council station looked out into infinite space. The stars stretched across the darkness in ways that made even experienced travelers stop and stare. Captain Hayes stood there with his team, waiting for the council to announce their decision. They had been waiting for 3 days. Grant leaned against the railing, looking out at the stars. Do you think we won? He asked. Hayes did not answer immediately. He was thinking about Earth, about the people who had stayed behind, about the burden of representing an entire species. Finally, he said, We won the trials. Whether that is enough, we will know soon. Lisa Park joined them, holding a tablet that showed data transmission rates from Earth. The Council has been sending inquiries to our planet, she said. They are trying to gather information about human biology, human psychology, human history. They are trying to understand us. That is good, Sophia said as she arrived on the deck. She looked tired. The diplomatic pressure had been intense. Understanding comes before acceptance. They stood in silence for a while, each of them thinking about what came next. Grant suddenly started to laugh. It was a real laugh, not nervous or frightened, but genuine amusement. What? Sophia asked. We won a diplomatic battle with an alien council while wearing T-shirts, said. He was still laughing. We walked into the most important meeting in human history dressed like we were going to a casual gathering on Earth. Sophia began to smile. Then she started to laugh as well. The tension of the past days broke like a dam. Lisa Park joined in the laughter. Even Hayes, who rarely allowed himself to relax, felt a smile spread across his face. It is actually crazy when you think about it, Lisa said between laughs. Every species in that council came in their formal wear, their symbols of authority, their traditions stretching back thousands of years. And we came in T-shirts with a picture of our planet on them. That was the point, Sophia said, becoming more serious but still smiling. We were telling them the truth. We were not hiding who we are. We were not trying to be something we are not. That is not weakness. That is strength. Hayes looked at her. You understand what we are doing now, he said. This is not just about getting a seat at the council table. This is about humanity claiming its place in the galaxy as it actually is, not as some other species thinks it should be. And it worked, said. They are scared of us now. Did you see how looked when you talked about survival? He was actually scared. Not scared, Sophia corrected. He was impressed. There is a difference. Fear is something you feel toward a threat. Respect is something you feel toward an equal. They heard footsteps. A representative arrived, moving with the clicking sounds that all of his species made when they moved quickly. The human translator on his body activated. The council has made its decision, the representative said. Captain Hayes and his team are requested to return to the council chamber immediately. The walk to the council chamber felt longer than it had before. Hayes realized that his heart was beating faster. This was the moment. The decision that would define humanity's future in the galaxy would be announced in the next few minutes. When they entered the chamber, the council was arranged exactly as it had been before. But the atmosphere was different. There was a sense of finality, of something important about to be stated. When the leader stood, all other members of the council seemed to pay attention. "We have deliberated," said. "We have examined everything you have shown us. We have reviewed the data about your species. We have studied your history. We have considered your arguments, and the council has reached a conclusion." He paused. Hayes felt Sophia's hand squeeze his arm slightly. "The Galactic Council votes unanimously to accept humanity as a full member species," announced, "with all the rights and responsibilities that such membership entails. Your species will receive voting power on council matters. Your species will receive protection under the Mutual Defense Agreement. Your species will be entitled to trade with all member nations, and your species will be recognized as equal in the galactic order." The council chamber erupted in sounds of agreement. The various species made their own expressions of approval. Some flashed light, some made musical tones, some made clicking and chirping noises. Hayes felt something in his chest release. Humanity had won, but was not finished. "There is one more thing," the leader said. "We wish to understand something about human culture that we find strange." "What is it?" Hayes asked. "You are smiling," said. "All of your people have been smiling since you learned of the council's decision. This is an expression of joy on your species, yes?" "Yes," Sophia answered. "The do not smile," said. "We do not have that ability. It is not part of our biology. We express approval through other means. But your smile, your happiness, it is contagious. Even now, watching you smile, I find myself wanting to understand what this feels like." Hayes extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. It was a casual gesture, not a formal one. It was the gesture of one person recognizing another person as equals. Looked at the hand for a moment. Then, in a motion that was clearly not natural for his species, he extended one of his appendages and touched Hayes's hand. The contact lasted only a moment, but it was significant. It was a crossing of the boundary between species. "Welcome to the Galactic Council," said. "May humanity bring to our order the strength of the—" And Hayes smiled. It was a smile that contained relief and pride and hope. It was the smile of someone who had represented his entire species and had succeeded. That night in their quarters on the station, the human team gathered to celebrate. They did not have much. They had what they could find on the station that was edible for human biology, but they gathered anyway and they talked about what came next. "We have to tell Earth," Lisa said. "Our families need to know." "The Council will probably broadcast the decision themselves," said. "Everyone in the galaxy will know before we can even send a message home." Sophia was looking at something on her tablet. "Representatives from at least 10 different species have already requested meetings to discuss trade agreements and diplomatic relations," she said. "We are suddenly very popular." Hayes was quiet. He was thinking about the weight of what had just happened. Humanity had claimed its place among the stars, but with that place came responsibility. Every decision he and his people made now would affect how the entire galaxy viewed their species. "We need to remember something," Hayes said to his team. "We came here wearing T-shirts and confidence. We need to keep that truth with us. We cannot let the weight of the galactic order change who we are. We are humans. We think differently. We see solutions that others miss. We care about each other and about our survival. Those things got us here. Those things need to keep us strong." Nodded. "We do not pretend to be something we are not." "We do not forget where we came from," Lisa added. "And we never accept that something is impossible just because it seems impossible," Sophia finished. They raised their glasses in a simple toast. 4 humans, far from home, celebrating their species' arrival in the galactic community. And they were smiling. That smile, that confidence, that refusal to be afraid of the future was the mark of humans who had survived and refused to be anything less than equals. Back on Earth, in all the cities and all the villages, people heard the news. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They were no longer the young species watching from the sidelines. They had a voice. They had a place. They had proven themselves. And the first impression they had left with the most powerful beings in the galaxy was not one of submission or fear. It was one of people wearing T-shirts and grins, confident that they belonged, refusing to apologize for who they were, ready to face whatever came next. They had raised a species that would not bow, and the galaxy would have to learn to respect that. Hayes stood on the observation deck one more time before leaving the station. He looked out at the stars. Earth was out there, somewhere beyond the light and the darkness. His people were there, and now the galaxy knew that humanity existed. The question was not whether they belonged. The question was what they would become. He smiled again. The answer to that question would be written in the future. And humans, he knew, were very good at writing their own futures. That was what survival on had taught them. Humanity was home among the stars now, and nothing would ever be the same. Looked at the other council members. They were shimmering with what might have been excitement. The aura were making deep, rumbling sounds. The other species were all communicating with each other in their own ways. "The council will take time to discuss what you have said," declared. "Captain Hayes, you and your people will remain here as our guests. We will make our decision soon." As Hayes left the council chamber, he felt something shift in the air. The council's view of humanity was changing. They were beginning to understand that a species born on a harsh world was not weak. It was dangerous in ways they had never imagined. Sophia squeezed his shoulder as they walked. "Well done," she said quietly. "We are not done yet," Hayes replied. "They are listening, but they are not yet convinced that we belong as equals." Grant smiled. "They will be," he said. "They just need a little more time to understand that humans are not something they can control. We are something they need to respect." He paused. The council waited. "This changes everything," said. "The council must now seriously consider whether humanity should be accepted as full members. What we thought was primitive, we now see is simply different. What we thought was foolish, we now see as courageous. You have earned the right to present your complete case." Hayes nodded. His team had passed the first tests, but the real battle was still to come. The council was starting to respect humanity. Now they had to understand why humans deserved a place at the table of power. Was silent for a very long time. The other council members shifted and made sounds to each other. Finally, the leader spoke again. "You have courage," said. "Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless. The council is willing to test your claims. You say humans are dangerous because you survive the unsurvivable. We will give you 3 trials. If you pass them, we will reconsider your status. If you fail, your species will accept whatever the council decides for your future." Hayes did not hesitate. "We accept the trials," he said. And in that moment, humanity's true test in the galactic order was about to begin. Hems who they were. On the day they left Earth's orbit, Hayes stood on the bridge of the small ship and watched the planet fall away behind them. He thought about all of human history, from the first humans who walked across dangerous continents to the explorers who sailed across unknown oceans to the people who had built cities in deserts and mountains and frozen wastelands. Humanity had always moved toward the new and the dangerous. They had always known that the greatest rewards came with the greatest risks. Now they were going to meet the powers that ruled the galaxy, and they were going to do it wearing t-shirts and confidence. They were going to show the universe what it meant to come from a. They were going to show that humans were not afraid of traditions that did not belong to them. The ship moved through space toward the council station. Hayes felt calm. Whatever came next, humanity was ready.